Okay, so let's talk about MongoDB. All of you should have MongoDB already installed, but just in case you don't, here's the link to install it. So just to quickly review, what is MongoDB? It is currently the most popular NoSQL database. Lots of people use it, and you should too, because it's pretty good. So why should we use MongoDB? Like, as Aaron already mentioned, or not this point, but if you have a lot of write operations that you want to do, like if you want to update your database a lot, MongoDB is very efficient at that. It's also very efficient if you have a lot of data. It's, partitioning and sharding are two words that you don't need to worry about. It just basically means that if you have a ton of data, you're able to split that data across different computers. And you can still query the data quickly. And if your schema is very prone to change. Okay, I'll talk about what a schema is later. Okay, so let's talk about the structure of a MongoDB instance. So a MongoDB instance is what you create when you run MongoD in your terminal. So this screenshot I have here, Okay, this screenshot I have here is just the terminal output of what happens when I run MongoD on my computer. So this starts the MongoDB instance. Each MongoDB instance can contain multiple databases, but for now, all you need to worry about is you're only keeping track of one database. Each database is composed of many different collections, and each collection is composed of many different documents. So what a document in MongoDB is, it's basically each unit of data that you're storing. So for example, if I'm storing like a database of people, then one of my documents could be David, and his age is 12, like I have up here. So that's one document, and then Hunter, age 14, that's another document. And all the documents together form a collection. So the three documents I have up here, if you group them, if you imagine them as being in an array of sorts, then that array is the collection of people. And in any given database, you can have multiple collections. Like say, I have a collection of people because I want to keep track of people, and I have a collection of cats because I also want to keep track of cats. Okay, so let's say I have a MongoDB instance running. How do I interact with it? How do I see what data is in my database? The way you do this is, or one way you can do this is with a MongoDB shell. And the shell is basically an interactive interface to a MongoDB instance. You can manually modify your database. You can also retrieve you can see what documents are in the database. And the third bullet point is not as important, but just something you can know is that it uses the test database by default if you don't do anything else with it. Okay, so let's get to some practical stuff. So how do you actually start a MongoDB instance? So a MongoDB instance exists entirely within one directory on your computer. What this means is that you have a folder, and everything inside that folder is what MongoDB keeps track of in order for the program to run. So how you can run it is you have two options. You can create your own directory, which you want MongoDB to run in which case you would do the first two commands. So you can make a data directory, and then you run MongoD with -- db path, and then space whatever path it is to your data directory that you just created. The second option, if you don't want to worry about this, is you can just run MongoD, and that'll use the default directory on your computer. I recommend making your own directory because let's say you have two different web apps on your computer. You want them to be using two different databases and not sharing the same database because there might be collisions. Okay, so how do you start the Mongo shell? So in a different terminal than the terminal that you're running your MongoDB instance in, you type the command Mongo, and that'll open up the interactive shell. if you're a Windows user, just run Mongo from the bin folder where MongoDB is installed. Okay, so now that you're in a Mongo shell, what are the sorts of commands you can do? So I mentioned earlier that each database is made up of many different collections. And a collection is just a group of documents. Like, I could have a people collection or a cats collection. So to show all the different collections you have, you type show collections, and that'll list every single collection in that database. And then if you want to list all the documents in a particular collection, you do db.collectionname.find. And if you have no arguments into find, then it'll list every single document in the collection. If you put an object as an argument, then it will return every document which matches this object. So let's say, for example, my object was just one key value pair, name and Aaron. So then the Mongo shell will print out every single document which matches the name Aaron. Okay. And now how do you modify a collection? So if you do db.collectionName.insert, and then you pass it an object, then it will insert that object into the collection. And if you do .removeObject, it will remove all documents in the collection which match that object. So if, going back to the earlier example, if your object was just one key value pair, name Aaron, then the Mongo shell will remove all documents in that collection which have name Aaron. And doing db.collectionName.drop will just delete the collection from your database entirely. Okay, that was probably a lot of information, so let's do a demo to, demos are good. Okay, so this is my terminal. I'm in some random directory, okay? So first step is to start a MongoDB instance. And the way I do that is I first need to create the directory in which I want my MongoDB instance to run inside. And so I'll just name it something arbitrary. I'm going to name it data. So now I have a data directory. And I'm going to start my MongoDB instance by doing MongoD --db path data. And if I run that, it'll take some time for the database to initialize because the directory is empty at first. But after that initializes, then our MongoDB instance will be up and running, and we can begin interacting with it. Does anyone have any questions so far? Yeah.
Okay, so if you're using Windows, do you have to run all of this inside the folder?
Yeah, but you can choose whatever path you want, I think.
If anyone is on Windows and is utterly confused, raise your hand and I'll try to come and help.
Yeah, do you have a question?
I ran it and then it says waiting for connection.
Yeah, so that means your instance is running, and it's just waiting for connections.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're good. Yeah.
You run this and get shutting down before it goes to
Could it be because another instance is running? Okay, yeah. Yeah.
How do I see if there are other instances?
Does it work when you run MongoDB?
Okay, sure. I'll most likely go with it.
Okay.
You work on your things. Let's go. Okay, if you have any bugs or can't run things, raise your hand, please.
didn't change the directory because you didn't change the directory.
Oh yeah. What's up? Oh, what it's doing with the directory? I have no idea. Yeah, it's basically all handled by MongoDB. And the important part you need to understand is just how to interface with it. Do you have a question?
Yeah, that's the issue. Wait,
Do you
no, it's that's points.
I can take it.
It's close.
On as best as you can.
If you give us like 5 more minutes, it's super painful. We're struggling on something and we can run ahead.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, so this
Is anybody on this?
Showing you how to use Mongoose.
Mongoose.
Looks like you already have a MongoDB. So you're good. So what happened when you typed MongoDB?
So the issue was you had another instance of the MongoDB on the background. It wasn't attached to a specific terminal. And so it was taking out.
You made the
this Mongo. So it was like, use something back off.
Okay, that just means you already have a MongoDB instance running, and you're good for now.
But it's not. Let's see. What? We're just.
Okay, for people who have Macs and they're having in your like error log, it says address ADDR already in use. Run the following commands and it should work. I'll write it on the board. Okay. Yeah.
I think kill all MongoDB also works. Or it works on one Mac. Yeah, I tried that. Or kill all of them. Kill all of them.
What's for each
Oh, peppers.
Wait.
So you need to do yeah.
So how do you have individual pieces
So you
Hey, all I do is I make the sisters and hit bump.
anybody on Windows? Windows.
It's not.
So right now we're just starting this. Then in that case, I think we run.
So you always get like individual pieces.
Yeah, that's true.
But how do you do like those like big?
Oh, the trays, and then you just grab it. Can I just keep the tray?
Okay, take the tray. Yeah, I wanted to order Chipotle, but there's something wrong with like blinking or something.
What's wrong with you?
Apparently Chipotle is good.
I think you can order from the launch. That's the opposite. To get home.
Never mind, no bonchon.
It's so good.
We're getting
Sushi.
yeah, for the bonchon with the stuff.
Okay, so what so don't worry about so you see what it's like data.
Kill all MongoDB.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead with the demo.
Don't
Okay, so by now you should have a MongoDB instance running. And now all we need to do is to start our client so that we can start interacting with our database. And the way we do that is we just go to any place in the terminal, that, open up a second terminal window because you can't do anything with the first one because that's running MongoDB. So on your second terminal, just run Mongo. And you should see something like connecting to test. And that means you're connecting to the test database, which is the default one. So that's the one you want. Okay, so to see what collections are currently in our database, we do show collections. Oh, wait, yeah. And wait, really? Okay, yeah, that just means that currently we have no collections in our database because we just instantiated it. Okay, so let's create a collection now. Let's say I want to keep track of different types of cats. So I'm going to create a cats collection, and I want to insert Pusheen into this collection as one of my documents. So what I can do is I do db dot, and then I enter my collection name. So I'm just going to call my collection cats. Okay, and then I'm going to do dot insert, and then what do I want my document to look like? So let's say each cat has a name. And then it has, I don't know, its color. So the color of Pusheen is gray. So I'm gonna insert that into my database. Okay, so that means that the document has been successfully written into the collection. So now if we run show collections, we should see cats. And then in order to see, okay, let's just insert another document into our database. So db cats.insert name, and then let's insert Nyan cat. And then the color of Nyan cat is rainbow? Okay, yeah. Rainbow. Okay, so now we should have two documents in our collection. So let's verify that. So we can do db.cats.find. And if we put in nothing, then it should return all documents back to us. And if I press enter, we see that we get two JavaScript objects, and I see Pusheen up there, and I also see Nyan cat. So that means our writes were successful. Okay, so let's say I have a ton of cats, and I'm just interested in Pusheen in particular. So what I can do is I can do db.cats.find, and then I can pass in an object to do my search. So the property that I'm looking for is I want the name to be equal to Pusheen. So that's the object that I'm going to enter here. So I want name, Pusheen. Okay, and this should return all the documents where the name is Pusheen. Hit enter, and that's exactly what I get. So sweet. So that's it for the Mongo shell demo. Let's go on to how we integrate MongoDB into your Node.js app. Okay, so Mongoose. This is a new word. Mongoose is how we're going to integrate MongoDB into our Node.js Express app. So what is Mongoose? It's a Node.js library that allows you to integrate MongoDB into your web app. It makes it pretty easy. So how you install Mongoose is you just do npm install Mongoose with the -- save. So just to recap, what the -- save does is it saves it to your package.json so that when someone else clones your repository and does npm install, they will also be able to get Mongoose as well. So that's how you install Mongoose for your app. And now let's take a look at how to set it up with your actual code-wise. So this code can, in general, go into your app.js file. You can put it in other places if you want to, but for now, let's just say it's in app.js. Okay, so we load the Mongoose object by saying require Mongoose in line 1. And then line 4 is where we connect Mongoose to MongoDB. And so you can ignore the MongoLab URI part for now. That's more about deployment. But the important part is the string on the right there. And you see that it says MongoDB localhost test. So that means we're connecting to the test database in your MongoDB instance. Test is the default one, so that's good. Okay, next line. We just defined a variable called connection, which is mongoose.connection. And line 9 is where we do error handling. So if something goes wrong with your MongoDB instance, that'll get logged there. Line 9 is not really important for you to understand. And line 12 is what happens when you successfully connect to your database. And right now, all I'm doing is printing database connected, exclamation point. Okay, now let's talk about schemas. So what is a schema? So remember earlier how I was making a cast collection and I wanted to insert Pusheen in it? So my Pusheen that I inserted into the collection had two properties. It had a name and it had a color. So I want all cats in my collection to have these two properties. And these two properties together is called the schema, which means that all documents in this collection must obey the schema. So this is another example. So you have one collection with 3 documents. The first document is, the name is David, the age is 12. So the schema is basically, you have a name field and you have an age field. So that's what a schema is. So how do you write a schema in your Node.js app? Well, this is what you do. So you can, for organization, you can put all your schemas inside a schemas directory, which you can make. So in this example, let's just say it's in the schemas directory and it's in the student.js file, because this is a schema for a student. So line 1, we load Mongoose, and then the next line of code we write is we define something called the student schema. And all we do is we instantiate mongoose.schema, and we give it 2 fields. We give it the name, which is a string, and we give it a course number, which is a number. So every student at MIT has a major. Every major is a number, so that's why course is a number. Okay, so once we have the schema, we make our model. And what the model is, so you can think of schema as like the skeleton of your document. And what the model does is it gives you a lot of convenient functions which you can use to find particular documents. So for example, if I want to find all documents whose course numbers are bigger than 10, then this Mongoose model will provide it to me. So we call that capital student, and finally we export it using module.exports. So any file which loads this file in particular will have access to our student model. Okay. Oh, right. One thing is maybe you're wondering what this string student does. And it basically specifies the collection. And Mongoose does this thing behind the scenes where it takes your string, it lowercases it, and it adds an S or ES. It basically makes it plural for you and calls out your collection. Okay, now sometimes you want hard constraints on your schemas, and Mongoose lets you do this too. So for example, if I want every student to have a name, like I don't want any documents in my collection where the name field is empty, because that doesn't make any sense. So what I can do with Mongoose here is I can say required : true. And that basically enforces that every document in my collection has a name. The index unique true part basically says every document in my students collection, the name field has to be different. So I can't have 2 students with the same name. And course number required is true. That just means every student has to have a course number. And everything else is the same. Okay, so now we have the Mongoose connected to MongoDB, and we also have our schemas defined. So how do we actually create a document in our web app? So this is how you do it. You first load the student model from the JavaScript file where you define the schema. And then you create a new object, which is new student. And this is just the syntax for it. I set the name equal to Eric. The course is 6, because that's what I am. Yeah, and then finally you do new student.save, and that will save the document to your collection. Okay, so let's say I have a collection and I have a ton of documents in it. How do I find a document in my collection? Well, you do it like this. Again, you always load the student model, and then the student model has a method called find1. And what this will do is it takes in 2 arguments. The first one is a JavaScript object. In this case, it's name:Eric. And the second one is a callback function, which runs whenever, after Mongoose is done fetching all the documents which match the object. So what this is doing is it's basically saying, okay, I'm going to look at all the documents in my collection. I'm going to take all the ones who have name Eric, and I'm going to return them. Or, sorry, I'm going to take the first document that I find whose name is Eric, and then I'm going to return it as the student thing right here. And then the first argument is an error variable, and the error will be null, I think, if everything goes smoothly. So you can just do a quick error check up there. And you can like print out an error and searches for all documents which match name Eric. And it just takes one of them and returns that document as the under lowercase student variable here. So that's why we're able to do student.name.
Okay, so you don't have to specify a student before find one.
Yeah, because we don't exactly know all the details of what the student we're looking for. All we know is the name is Eric. Yeah, question?
So what you're saying is that if instead of student we have chocolate, for example, with the capital P, then it would be functional student with lowercase t.
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
I'm just trying to check the student with a small s. It's called student because the student with the capital S at the beginning. If you had another word instead of student to define it, it would be different, right?
Oh, I can actually call this student variable anything I want. The lowercase student. I can call it ASDF if I wanted to.
And what is function?
Yeah, so function up there is the callback function, which runs after Mongoose is done getting the document back to you. So what line 3 does is it says, okay, I'm interested in all documents which have name Eric. And you tell Mongoose to search through the database for all documents matching this query. And once Mongoose is done doing that, then it will run that function. So it will start from line 4 and run until line 9. Yes? Oh. Yeah, question? Yeah, you can call it anything you want. So this is just convention. Yeah?
You had module.export before. What does it do?
Yeah, module.export is basically an express thing. It basically says anything that imports this file in particular will have access to that object, which I'm setting equal to module.export. Okay, so let's go on. Yeah, this is just another way to retrieve documents from your database. So in the previous example, we did student.find1. So this returns one document. But what if I were interested in every single document whose name is Eric? Then I can do this. And the .find method basically just returns an array of documents, which is every single document which matches my search query, and it returns it as an array.
Sorry, last question.
Yeah.
The error function, the error variable, the error variable, what is it? How does it know the error variable? Is it just because it's ERR and it knows it, or there's no reason?
Oh, there's no reason. You can call it anything you want.
So it just knows that the first argument, I mean, how can you then write if
Because the callback function knows that the first argument, no matter what you name it, is going to contain information about whether there was an error or not. And the second argument is going to contain the array of documents.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, third way to find documents. Well, this is just basically, what if I have more than one field? Then I can do this. So if I want not just documents which have name Eric, I also want Erics who are also course 6. Then I do this. Okay, just details. Okay, now we know how to insert documents. This is how we edit documents. So the way we edit documents is, well, first you need to, as always, import the students model into your code. And then, so this example is actually a combination of two things we have already seen. So the first thing we do is we find the document which matches the thing that we want to edit. And then once we have that, we change whatever field we want, and then we call .save. And that will edit the document inside the database. So let's say, so in this example, I'm taking one document whose name is Eric, and I'm changing his course number to 6, because that's the most reasonable course number. Okay. However, there's a more direct way to edit documents. So this is the syntax you can use. I don't know why I'm changing the course number to course 8 here, but yeah, that's just an example, hypothetical. Yeah, so you just call student.update, and then you give it the search query that you want, and then the second parameter is $set, and then the object that follows it is what field you want to change, followed by what value you want to change it to. So I want to take the field course, and I want to change it to 8. And once that's done, then it runs this callback function, which takes in 2 arguments. The first one is the error. The second is the result. And the result just basically tells you information about like how many documents were modified, stuff like that. Yeah.
So this will, say you have multiple people by the name Eric, will this change everyone by the name Eric to course 8 or just the first one?
It'll change everyone, I think. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Last thing we need to know how to do is we need to know how to delete documents from our database. So let's say I'm tired of having all documents named Eric around. So then I can do student.remove, and then I pass in the object, which is my query again, and then this function will remove all documents which match the query, essentially. And after that, it runs the callback function. Okay, so these are just a few basic functions that Mongoose provides. Mongoose has a ton more that you can look into if you want, but I think these are the basic ones that you should get a solid understanding of for now. Yeah.
Is there a way to modify the schema to documents?
Oh, yeah, there is. I don't cover it today, though. But yeah, there is a way. So if you want to like add a field to your schema, you can. So for now, I think the most simple way to do this is just to clear your database, change the schema, and then restart everything. And that'll just work. Otherwise, you can do this thing called a database migration, which is a little more complicated, but it's also doable. Yeah, we can go over that in office hours if you want. Okay, let's do another demo now. Yeah. So I'm just going to show you how to hook up a hook up MongoDB with your Node.js app. Okay, so feel free to ignore the right part of the screen because I don't have this all memorized, so this is my cheat sheet. Okay, so the left part of the screen is, okay, so let's make Express app first. So what we do is we do Express and then views equals HBS for handlebars. And I can name this Express app something, anything I want. I'm just gonna name it ASDF. Okay, so now that's done. I CD into ASDF. First thing you do is you do npm install. And that will install everything, every package that's specified in package.json. Okay, so now that that's done, I want to install Mongoose. And if you recall, the command to do that is npm install mongoose -- save. And running that will install Mongoose into our app and save that information inside package.json. Okay, now we have that. We want to go into app.js and we want to connect Mongoose with MongoDB. And the way we do that is first we have to load the Mongoose object into our file. So we do var mongoose equals require mongoose. Has anyone lost so far? Okay, so now we've loaded the mongoose object into our app.js file. Then we go on to connect it to MongoDB. And this is just code that I'm copying and pasting right now because it's the same no matter what you do. It's actually fine if you don't like code all of this because there's going to be a workshop later that has all of this for you. So for now, just like pay attention to what parts, what code I put where, so you have a general idea of where everything goes. So this code right here is just the database setup code. It connects Mongoose to MongoDB, and that's all we need to do with app.js. Okay, now we need a schema for our database. So first, let's make a schemas directory. And then we can CD into that. And let's make a user schema because we want our app to have users. So as always, first thing we do is we import Mongoose. And then we define our user schema. So user schema equals new mongoose.schema. And then each user has a username. Let's just say a username is a string. And each user has a course number, which is a number. Okay, so that's our schema. And now we need to define our model. So let's just say the model is capital user. And this way to do this is to call mongoose.model. And then in quotes, capital user. And then we pass in our user schema variable here. So now we have the user model, and now we just need to export it. So module.exports equals mongoose.model. Oh shoot, sorry. Just capital user. And that's it. Yeah, question?
Yeah, on the definition of the schema, why do you specify the nature of the variables like string and number?
Oh, it's just so that MongoDB can verify. Like, let's say I want to store a document where the username is 20. That doesn't really make sense, so we want to prevent that from happening.
That's not required.
Sorry?
It's not required. Well, I'm thinking of like the SQL example where you have to specify the type for every
Yeah. I guess strictly speaking, it might not be like hard enforced, but this just makes it clear. So like, if you have 10 different people working on the same project, then everyone will know, okay, I know exactly what type this should be, and like, that sort of thing. So it also makes it more readable. Okay, so now we've got our user schema. So that's basically all we need, and now we can just write some code to start hooking stuff up together. So let's go to our, so we do npm, let's see. So first we have to make our database. So I made a directory called data, and then I'm running MongoDB with this data as my directory that I want MongoDB to run inside. So after this is done, if you guys remember what the Hello World Node.js app was, this is basically it. It's not very interesting. It's got the index page which says, welcome to Express, which we can see in the views directory here. Oh, it's in Jade. Oh, okay. I actually don't know Jade.
We need to do a lot of stuff.
Let me just see if I can. Wait, actually, never mind. I'm just gonna like go into this directory. Okay, this is something that I was working on last night to prepare for this, but it's basically the same thing. Okay, so everything I did is the same so far. So let's look at index.hps. So what it's got is, in the first two lines, that's just what Express comes with. And in the last part of it is just a form that I added in. So it's just got the username and the course number. So if we run, this Express app right now, let's go to, so it's got the username and course number inputs. Okay, so now we have this form and we want a submission to actually write it into our database. So how we do that is we go to our routes folder. So if we open up index.hps again, notice that right here, it makes a post request to the route slash. So we need to handle that in our routes.js file, or in our routes file, and that's in index.js. And inside index.js, what we basically have is a few lines of code. So in line 11, you see right there that we have the handler for a post request to the slash route. And what it does is it basically makes a new user using the information that the client gave us. So that's the username and the course number. And given that, we instantiate a new user object, and then we call new user.save. And that's really all there is to it. So once someone fills in the fields in the form, they click submit, it'll get handled by this this route, and then it'll save the information to the database. Okay, so yeah, that's basically it. We have 15 minutes left, so let's just jump into the workshop. So the workshop should give you some hands-on experience, which is pretty good. Okay, yeah, so go to this URL. It's a Git repository on GitHub, and the instructions are in the README.